Lately, there's been a lot of talk and even more action around immigration enforcement here in the US. It's a complex issue, so let's break down what's been happening, step by step. First, let's get a handle on who does what. Several federal agencies are involved in immigration enforcement. You have Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, who you'll mostly see at the borders and ports of entry. Then there's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, which handles enforcement within the country, including arrests and deportations. These agencies operate under a large and complicated set of laws passed by Congress over many decades. Their main job is to enforce these laws, which involves everything from checking visas to carrying out deportation orders issued by immigration courts. It's a massive operation with a huge impact on millions of lives. Now let's look at how we got to this point. Over the past few years, there's been a noticeable increase in enforcement activities. It didn't happen overnight. We can trace it back through a timeline of specific policies and executive orders. For example, policies were introduced that expanded the criteria for who could be prioritized for deportation. This led to a surge in arrests, not just at the border, but in communities across the country. We've seen operations targeting specific cities and workplaces, which were often announced with a lot of media attention. If you look at the data on a map, you can see these enforcement hotspots popping up in different regions, reflecting shifting federal priorities. These weren't just random actions, they were part of a broader, coordinated strategy to ramp up immigration enforcement nationwide. However, the surge in enforcement has also led to tragic incidents that have deeply affected communities. One such event involved the fatal shooting of a young woman by an immigration officer, an incident that sparked immediate and widespread public outcry. Recent reports have highlighted specific incidents that have intensified the national conversation. In one case, a vehicle encounter involving an ICE officer resulted in the discharge of a firearm and the death of a young woman, leading to widespread public concern and calls for a thorough review of procedures. Separately, an enforcement-related case involving the temporary detention of a 5-year-old child alongside a family member has sparked a national discussion regarding the procedures used when minors are present during operations. As you can imagine, this surge in enforcement didn't go unnoticed. In cities and towns all over the country, people started to organize. We saw an incredible wave of public response, much of it centered on peaceful protest and community support. People from all walks of life gathered for vigils, marches, and rallies, holding signs that called for compassion and respect for immigrant rights. Churches offered sanctuary, and local communities set up rapid response networks to support families affected by arrests. These weren't just angry protests, they were powerful displays of solidarity. Neighbors stood with neighbors, advocating for humane treatment and a fair process for everyone, regardless of their immigration status. It was a grassroots movement, demanding that the voices of their communities be heard. This groundswell of public concern pushed a critical conversation into the national spotlight, the need for accountability and transparency. People started asking tough questions. How are these enforcement actions being carried out? Are officers following the law? Are they respecting people's constitutional rights? This led to a nationwide dialogue about reform. One of the biggest topics was the use of body cameras for ICE and CBP agents. Similar to what many local police departments have adopted, the idea is that cameras could provide an objective record of encounters, protecting both the public and the officers. Advocacy groups and even some lawmakers began pushing for stricter oversight, more detailed reporting on enforcement activities, and clearer policies to prevent racial profiling. The conversation is no longer just about if we should enforce immigration laws, but how we enforce them and how we hold our government agencies accountable. And it wasn't just activists and politicians talking about this. The influence of these events has reached the highest levels of culture and entertainment. Some of the biggest names in music and film are using their massive platforms to shine a light on these issues. Take Bad Bunny, for example, whose advocacy has brought these topics to a global audience. By integrating messages of human rights and immigrant advocacy into their art and public appearances, these figures are doing more than just performing. They are sparking a broader public and political discourse, forcing a national conversation that transcends traditional news cycles. This celebrity advocacy has a profound influence on public opinion, often leading to direct responses from political leaders and shaping the way policy is debated in the public square. It bridges the gap between complex legal issues and the human stories behind them. They reminded everyone that behind the headlines and political debates, there are real people with families, hopes, and dreams. This cultural advocacy played a huge role in shaping public opinion, bringing the human side of the immigration debate into mainstream consciousness in a way that news reports alone often can't. So, where does all of this leave us? We're in the middle of a deeply important, ongoing national conversation. This isn't just about politics or laws, it's about who we are as a country and what values we stand for. The increased enforcement, the powerful public response, the calls for accountability, and the voices of cultural figures have all merged into a complex and often emotional debate about the future of immigration in America. It's a story that continues to unfold in our communities, in our courts, and in the halls of Congress. And it's a story that matters to all of us. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the issues shaping our world. See you next time.